गया आ गया आ गया, आपने कर दी स्टार्ट। ठीक है ठीक है सर।
हेलो। हेलो। हेलो।
मेरी आवाज आ रही है? पूरा कर दो होगा।
राव जी,
हाँ सर।
आवाज
गुड
आ रही है
आफ्टरनून।
मेरी? आवाज आ रही है?
बिल्कुल आ रही है सर, लाउड एंड क्लियर।
ये जब क्वेरी क्वेश्चन होगा,
हाँ हाँ
हैंड रेज करने के लिए बोलेंगे या चैट करने के लिए बोलेंगे?
हाँ, उस
आपके
पर
पास आ जाएगा उसका?
हाँ, वो आपको दिख जाएगा। सम पीपल विल स्पीक, अपना माइक ऑन करके तुरंत बोल देंगे।
हाँ,
कुछ लोग अपना रेज हैंड करते हैं, कुछ लोग येलो में दिखाते हैं।
ठीक है।
तो वो आपको जरा देखना पड़ेगा।
देख लीजिएगा, सब मिलकर देख लेंगे। और यानी कि मैंने सुबीर को बोला, बाई चांस
हाँ हाँ।
किसी का इंटरनेट ऑफ हो जाता है,
अच्छा हाँ, वो
somebody should take care।
ठीक। इस पे वॉल्यूम बढ़ा।
वीडियो ठीक आ रहे हैं?
जी सर।
वीडियो ठीक आ रहे हैं?
हाँ, वीडियो आ रहा है।
हेलो 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 हेलो
आवाज तो आ रही है।
हेलो
जल्दी लग गया। हाँ हाँ, बोलो। फोन उसको म्यूट कर रखा है। नहीं, अभी नहीं आ रही। हेलो, नहीं, हेलो हेलो, आप लोग कुछ बोलो। नहीं नहीं, अभी बोलो। नहीं आ रही है। तार लगी है। आगे तो ठीक है। किसे नीचे जा रही है, मतलब कहीं से जा रही थी। ठीक है, अब बोलो, फिर बोलना। हेलो। हम्म, हाँ बोलते रहना। ऊपर वाला नहीं बता, नीचे से है। आपका ये बात आने लगी है किससे।
कि चाहिए ऊपर चला गया सर, नहीं की जरूरत नहीं, चश्मा है तो फिर चाहिए। तो ये वाली थी तो चाहिए टेढ़ी नहीं है वो तो।
अब वहाँ से
इधर करें बच्चे
यहाँ से आइए।
और क्या कैलेंडर और कैलेंडर उतार लें। नहीं नहीं उतार के फिर फोटो था, चलो उतारे थे फिर।
ठीक है, फिर रहने दो। हेलो हेलो कैसा है भाई?
हम्म? नहीं तो इधर निकल जी, पीछे से जाएगी। कोई नहीं।
हाँ वर्मा साहब, गुड आफ्टरनून।
गुड आफ्टरनून।
आवाज
यू
आ
आर
रही है?
नॉट विजिबल ऑन द स्क्रीन। कैसे हो?
ठीक है।
हाँ, बड़े अब नजर आई तुम्हारे।
हाँ हाँ।
हाँ।
शिवा प्रसाद साहब, गुड आफ्टरनून, वेलकम सर।
नहीं, उनका म्यूट है मेरे ख्याल है।
हाँ म्यूट है।
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, great.
I am SS Rawat. I have been in touch with you.
कोई नहीं, कुछ नहीं चाहिए।
नमस्कार वर्मा जी।
नमस्कार जहाँ साहब, कैसे हैं?
ठीक है सर, नमस्कार।
वेरी नाइस। आज आपका
गुड
क्या बड़ा
आफ्टरनून। हाँ सर, आज
बड़ा
आज
बस
हमारे
बढ़िया सर, बढ़िया
हमारे-
बढ़िया।
आज बहुत सीपा साहब, आप दुबले हो गए हो यार।
How are you, sir? Yes,
After
sir.
long time we are meeting you.
Long time, yes. अब 5 साढ़े 5 साल हो गया रिन्यूएबल में।
अरे मैं देख रहा हूँ long time.
नमस्कार सर।
दिलीप, वेलकम
सर
दिलीप।
नमस्कार।
नमस्कार।
प्रणाम सर, प्रणाम।
नमस्कार। आवाज मेरी आ रही है दिलीप?
हाँ
आ
जी, हाँ
रही
जी।
है, आ रही है सर।
Yes.
Good.
दिलीप जी,
सबसे
नमस्कार।
यंग दिलीप ही लग रहा है।
नमस्कार सर। हैं?
सबसे यंग लग रहे हो।
नहीं सर।
खोल के पाऊँ हाँ? इसको
Good afternoon, Prashant.
Good afternoon, Jha sir. How are you? Am I audible?
Thank you. Yeah. Are you joining from abroad?
Yes, yes. I'm on a vacation abroad, so my connection will be little unstable. So
And
I'll put the video on once my session comes, if it's okay, right?
Sure.
Sure. And I'll go on mute now. Yeah.
प्रणाम सर, राकेश नाथ जी। प्रणाम।
नमस्कार नमस्कार जी, कैसे हैं?
सब ठीक है सर।
नमस्कार राकेश नाथ जी।
नमस्कार, कैसे हैं आप?
मैं ठीक हूँ सर।
नमस्कार सर, शिव प्रसाद, राकेश जी।
नमस्कार। गुड आफ्टरनून सर।
गुड आफ्टरनून।
गुड आफ्टरनून साई साहब।
प्रणाम सर।
प्रणाम झा जी, आपका फंक्शन आज जबरदस्त है। प्रिपरेशन।
प्रणाम सर।
प्रणाम।
गुड आफ्टरनून सर।
गुड आफ्टरनून।
राकेश सर, गुड आफ्टरनून।
गुड आफ्टरनून। ठीक है, आवाज तो ठीक है।
आ जाओ। तरंग को विश्वास कम है मेरे।
सर 2:30 हो गया, 5 मिनट वेट कर लेते हैं सर।
Yeah. Normally we wait for 5 minutes.
नमस्कार सर अजय।
हाँ नमस्कार, गुड आफ्टरनून, अजय शंकर here.
Ajay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Very,
Good
very
afternoon.
nice to see you.
Ajay ji, how are you?
Fine, thank you. कैसे हैं आप?
Fine.
Very good, very good.
लेटर पैड के लिए लेटर
कोई
पैड
पेपर देना है।
डिस्टर्ब हो रहा है।
अब आ जाए। We have another webinar on this. I sent that paper to Mr. Jha.
Yes sir. On
That is, Prayas has done a detailed study.
yes sir.
The hypothesis is that transmission is becoming too costly.
Yes sir. That is the issue sir. That is also is very important.
Yeah, I think that is on 11th or something, no?
11th October sir.
11th, yeah.
Today Mahajan sir will announce sir.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jha.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Is my voice audible, sir?
Yeah.
नमस्कार गर्ग साहब।
Namaskar.
Naam sir.
सर नमस्कार।
Namaskar. How are you?
शंकर जी
अब शुरू करिए झा जी।
Yes sir. Let us start sir.
Yeah.
Sir, respected Sri R.V. Sayaji, President, India Energy Forum and former Secretary Power Government of India, esteemed speakers, eminent personality attending the webinar, distinguished delegates, participants, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. On behalf of the India Energy Forum, I extend a warm welcome to each one of you to this webinar on enabling renewable energy integration, addressing transmission connectivity and execution challenges in India. As you all know, transmission has always been a very critical element in the power value chain. But in the context of large-scale renewable energy integration, it has become even more challenging to plan and construct. For example, Indian RE potential is concentrated in a few far-flung locations. For just giving the example, just see the Khavda, Bhuj, Lakadia. There's one place in that area in Gujarat. Here, about 81 gigawatt, 81,000 megawatt potential has been. Similarly, in Barmar, Bikaner, Fatehgarh, Jaisalmer, all are nearby. 150,000 megawatt potential has been declared to be developed. Evacuating such huge volumes. Yes, sir. Evacuating such huge volumes required a number of very high capacity corridors. Today, even our largest capacity line, 800 kV DC or 765 kV double circuit, can carry at the most 5,000 to 6,000 per line. Now we can imagine how many such lines will be needed for evacuating these powers. Problem is, all these lines had to come far away from the distance to this point, near 800 to 1,000 kilometers. Generally, if you take the HVDC line, general gestation period is normal, not much right of way, then it is 4 years. Naturally, where renewable energy gestation period is 2 and 3 years, unless until we do the coordinated planning, there will be a lot of this line. Recent estimate, more than 50 gigawatt, more than 50,000 megawatt of renewable generation is currently facing access issues. They are not getting access, primarily because commissioning schedule of transmission projects are much later than generation schedule. Clearly, this demands coordinated and phased planning of generation and transmission. Thus, the challenges is further compounded by supply chain constraints, a shortage of manpower. As I was saying, so for HVDC, since beginning, worldwide, we have the only 3 vendors, ABB, GE, Siemens. All are fully loaded because all over the world work is going on. And actually, they are fully loaded. If you come into the constraints, similarly, tower, transformer, all are facing constraints. Because of all these things, in financial year 2025, as per a report, 8,837 meters of transmission was added against a target of 15,253 circuit kilometers, a clear cut shortfall of nearly 42%, resulting in a significant stranded and curtailed renewable capacity in some regions. These facts underline why the theme of today's webinar is so relevant. Unless we address these challenges with practical solutions, the pace of India's clean energy transition will be constrained. I am confident that the delegation today, with the participation from CTU, utilities, developers, EPC contractors, OEMs, and technology providers, regulators, will help us identify actionable measures to overcome these barriers. With these words, I once again extend my warm welcome to all distinguished speakers and participants. Now it is my privilege to invite our President of the India Energy Forum, and former Secretary Minister of Power, Sri R.V. Saiji, to deliver the opening and presidential address. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jha, for a good introductory set of remarks. As you rightly said, that transmission has become a very complex exercise now. Of course, transmission planning has always been very challenging. In our own time for the last 30, 40 years, we have seen how we changed from a state transmission system to regional transmission system and from regional transmission system to the national transmission system. each change, together with expansion that was happening on the generation side, supply side, was indeed a big challenge. I think the type of exercise that India has gone through in last particularly 20, 30 years is unprecedented type of exercise. Please mute yourself. Those who are not speaking, please mute yourself. That type of exercise is an unprecedented exercise, and we have succeeded. Of course, there are concerns, and that those concerns will be there and they need to be discussed. But so far as this emergence of renewable as a phenomenon in India in last 10 plus years is concerned, that has made the exercise even more complex, very complex. We have solar systems coming at a very fast pace, and the type of figures that we are talking in terms of gigawatt, now no longer we are talking in megawatt, now we are talking gigawatt. Till the turn of the century, last century, we were less than 100,000 megawatts. So now gigawatt is appearing smaller. So now everything is in terms of, like Mr. Jha mentioned, in carved area, something like 50, 60,000 megawatt or 50, 60 gigawatt in the Khavda plus in that area put together. You will have the solar power system coming up. Jaisalmer is another area where large capacity is likely to come. And on the top of it, we have the lead time. And the lead time of, as you all know, the solar system is short in terms of generation capacity being hooked to the grid, and the lead time of transmission is entirely different. And it is becoming more and more challenging. So as a result, things have become too difficult for transmission planners. Do we reduce the pace of generation in solar? Is an issue. Or do we do something that we continue with the pace, even further accelerate and yet handle the transmission issue adequately? That is a major point to consider. And on the top of it now, we also have another set of development, which is a good development. And that is, we are also trying to do decentralized distributed rural energy in rural area. Almost all the states in the country, and rightly so, they have gone with the planning of 2 megawatt to 5 megawatt, sometimes even less in rural India, and they will have their local system. So I can only sympathize with the people who are planning, because everything is touched upon, everything is planned, everything is getting into execution mode, but one is not certain at what pace those things will happen insofar as decentralized distributed rural energy is concerned. But that has a bearing. If you did not have this decentralized, then you will have national grid, and from national grid you get into a state grid, and from the state grid in the usual manner you get into 33 kV and all that. So that was the mode of supply. But this solar technology gives us an advantage that we can have very extensive formulation, very extensive planning of rural India to be supplied with highly decentralized distributed rural system, solar system. Same supply. So dynamically, how do we factor that in? We have to simulate the condition, what will happen in next 3 years, simulate the condition, what will happen in next 5 years, next 10 years, and then also try to see how best we take care of the larger concentration of generation in areas like Kavla, areas like Jaisalmer, where tens of gigawatt of capacity would be coming in next 5-10 years and at very short gestation period. This is a tough task. And really, I do not know how the transmission system would cater to this. And frankly and candidly, that exercise has not generated a conclusion that we will be able to cope with it or we will not be able to cope with it. And to cope with it, what do we do? I am also told in certain generation area on solar system, already sort of backing down is being sort of implemented. You have a supply that can be more. You have, let's say, 500 megawatt or 1,000 megawatt and backing down. And it is not necessarily on account of the demand, but also on account of transmission inadequacy, to cope with the type of generation that will happen. This phenomenon of something that has emerged in the last few months, this is likely to be accentuated. This is likely to increase further. That will put, so that two contradictory situations are there. Do we need to take care of the massive expansion, that the pace at which it's happening in concentrated areas, and in what manner we take? And how do we necessarily factor in the decentralized distributed generation in rural India, about which you cannot say with certainty that what amount of that capacity would be only on local transmission system. So this is one set of planning process. Second set of challenge that is coming is already a detailed exercise has been done, and as I was mentioning, we are going to discuss this in a few days now on about the study that has been done on the cost of transmission. Even without this study, a number of seminars that I attended, number of informal discussions that I attended, people did have a feeling that on transmission the cost is becoming quite high. Are we overdoing it? Or we are inadequate? That is another. If we are overdoing it, that how do we handle the cost of transmission? And how do we keep the power cost under control? So that is another set. The execution challenge was always there, but that execution challenge for the simple reason that the magnitude of expansion is high and the gestation period that we expect is going to be lower. That has put another challenge on execution. Right of way was always an issue, but that right of way everywhere is becoming a more acute problem. Quite often, number of projects where huge investments are being made, maybe 70-80% of capex has been spent, but for the last 10-15%, you wait for months or sometime a year or two, just because of this right of way issue getting not resolved, and therefore your IDC also increases, capex increases, your cost increases, and whole investment assumptions that were made get into problem. So these are another set of execution problems that are happening. On technology side, I have been discussing quite often that to handle this issue, why do we not have, in a limited way, underground cable system so that right of way problem is partially reduced? And technological changes that need to happen in the overall transmission system in terms of tower design, character of tower, in terms of cabling or conductors. That part, I would say that to cope with the type of expansion that India is going to experience, whether adequate research technology development is happening or not, and I wouldn't say I'm not critical of it, but whether that has an answer to be there in time to come. So there are a number of issues that are associated today. As I said in the beginning, transmission planning was always a complex exercise, But for the reason that we just now outlined and Mr. Jha also outlined, I think this is going to be a bigger problem. We should be quite seriously concerned about it. Overdoing or underdoing, not adequately taking care of this, or managing the pace or moderating the pace of generation in certain cases so that this problem is appropriately handled and the cost is kept under control. These are some of the issues that we would like to hear from our experts on the subject, and then we will also discuss among the participants to come to certain set of conclusions, which will definitely be forwarded to the concerned authorities. Thank you again, once again, on behalf of the India Energy Forum, that you are participating on such an important and very critical issue. It is timely that we come out with some conclusions and some recommendations. Thank you.
Jha, you are on mute.
Thank you very much, sir, for your inspiring address and giving several aspects of planning. Of course, what is the challenges? Distributed system is the one of the best solution world is feeling. But today we are limiting ourselves to the planning and the execution of the transmission system, conventional. But all this also, as far as price is concerned, sir, we are going to have one webinar on the 11th October. With this, sir, and thank you very much again. And now we are moving towards the sessions. Today we have the 3 sessions, sir. Each session have the 2 presentations. Each presentation will have 15 minutes time. That's why all speakers are requested to adhere to time. The first session, we are starting with first session is planning and coordination challenges. In this session, we'll focus on aligning generation and transmission planning. Then I invite the first speaker, Sri Dilip Rojekar, CEO, CTU, for his presentation on planning gaps in the RE and transmission development. Dilip.
Thank you, Jha sir. Thank you, Shai sir. And thank you for India Energy Forum to give me an opportunity to be present with such an august gathering. With your permission, I'll share my screen for the presentation.
Sure.
As Jha sir has told that the topic on which I am going to talk is about planning gaps in transmission development. This is under the aegis of enabling renewable energy integration of India Energy Forum. The August gathering, which actually I am addressing, I dare not say that there are gaps in the Indian power sector. In fact, just have a look at the Indian power sector. As Shai sir has told, at the turn of the century, we were only 93,800 megawatt, and we are almost 5 lakh megawatt in 2025. The peak demand also, in the last 15 years itself, we have seen that the peak demand has grown more than 100,000 megawatt, and that has been possible by a accelerated addition in the transmission as well as RE. In fact, RE, if you see, in 2010 it was 10 gigawatts. Now it is 190 gigawatts. So a 19 times jump actually to the RE capacity through which India has been able to show to the world that we can add RE at a very accelerated space, and this RE has been absorbed in the Indian grid through a massive development in the transmission system. In last 13-14 years, if you see, the 765 kV lines has increased from 5,000 megawatt to 57,000 5,000 circuit kilometers to 57,000 circuit kilometers. and 400 kV lines has increased from 1 lakh circuit kilometers to 2 lakh circuit kilometers, and each the 765 kV lines is almost can carry almost equivalent to 400 kV lines. So that way the addition of transmission capacity has been quite remarkable, and this has been, in fact, this has led our country to have one of the largest synchronously operating grid in the world with minimal and no transmission constraint. In fact, one price throughout the all the bidding areas for almost the entire year shows that the transmission is quite robust in transfer of power across the grid. And further, the type of grid operation that India is witnessing with frequency and the voltages remaining within very tight allowable bands for a substantial period of time during the day and across the region shows the robustness of the transmission system also. But and all these have been possible because of the very well laid foundation by our policymakers and the planners, and that has given us from where the accelerated RE addition has been made possible. However, recently there are certain pockets that are witnessing curtailment in the generation, and that is also due to mismatch in the transmission and the generation per se. While planning, there were no RE. While planning RE, the transmission system for RE, there were no gaps as such. However, due to the right of way issues and the other issues which I am going to highlight, the curtailments have become a problem, a hardship for both generation as well as the consumers or the discoms with whom they have signed the PPAs. So to go with the gaps, actually, I try to chart out 4 5 big gaps which I think are there as far as the integration of RE in the ISTS grid is concerned. First as foremost, actually, is the mother of all mismatch is the mismatch in the gestation period, and that's why the gestation period of RE and the transmission system, as has been highlighted by Shahi sir as well as Jasar, is a matter of fact, and we have to live with it. In fact, we have to plan our system or develop our system, take into consideration these are the facts of the life. However, what we have seen is that there has been inorganic growth of RE generation. In fact, almost all the fronts. There are in the table I have tried to show 472 gigawatts of RE potential that has been declared by SECI or MNRE, and Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, MP, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, all the places the installation of or maybe commissioning of RE is going on. So the transmission systems are required to be present at all the places at all the time, or like at all the places simultaneously. We have to carry out the transmission development. Had we taken up the state by state or area by area or potential by potential, then probably we would have been able to address to the problem which Jasar has told about the very just big gestation period for the HVDC, 4 to 5 years. But what we have done is almost all the transmission licensees that are active in the field are engaged to the extent that they are finding a severe stress on the supply chain, not only of the skilled manpower but also of the material. In fact, few months back, actually, I was speaking with Power Grid senior officials about 500 numbers of transformers are required, and all the order books of almost all the manufacturers are full. They are not actually are ready to take up new orders, and even if they want to take at a very high cost. So what we have done is actually, had we planned state by state or area by area. In fact, I had seen in case of Australia, they have first bidded out the West Orana RE potential, then they are done for New England, then next in line is Queensland, then the Victoria. Actually, they are that way. These transmission entities would have been engaged, and the available manpower would have been more effectively utilized. The second thing, and the result of that is actually mismatch in almost all the potential zones. It's like we are working at all the fronts, therefore all the fronts we are failing. There are places where transmission is available, but the RE generation is not there. For the example for this is RE Kurnool 3 transmission system that has been implemented by Power Grid. The entire substation is available, it is connected to the grid, but there is zero applicant connected to the Kurnool. But at the same time, there are applicants who are in Rajasthan, Gujarat area which are facing curtailments. In fact, if I talk of Rajasthan itself, in Rajasthan, Fatehgarh 1, 2, 3, Bhadla 1, 2, Bikaner 1, 2. So all these transmission, rather Bhadla 3, 4 is also under construction, Fatehgarh 4 is under construction, Barmer 1, 2 is under construction, Bikaner 3, 4 is under construction. So what we are trying to do is actually, along with this, we are also implementing Anantapur, Kurnool, Gadag, Koppal, and whatnot, and Khavda, Lakadia, Bachau. So all the systems are happening together, and that are putting the severe stress on the supply chain as well as availability of adequate manpower. Next actually is misplaced priority. What we have made is actually connectivity has been made precondition for LOA or for land allocation. Yesterday, one of the public sector senior official of a central public sector undertaking has come to me that I want a connectivity at Gadag because the land is available in Karnataka. The Karnataka says if you have a connectivity, we'll give you land. In fact, we say that we will give you connectivity if you have 50% of the land. So this is chicken and egg situation. The problem that we are seeing is the entity having connectivity does not have LTA, LOA, and the people who have got LOA does not have a connectivity. In fact, the connectivity is a prerequisite for for making a bid. In fact, I remember the first bid that SECI has raised. That time it was a bid for 2 gigawatt of generation can be installed anywhere in the all over India. And for that, actually, we have got almost 10 applications, or we have granted connectivity one by one based on the priority or the methodology prescribed by CERC, and granted 10 people. And the person who has got in the new substation won the bid. So the person who has got the connectivity was not able to win the bid. So this has led to the situation where actually people are taking the connectivity, not winning the LOA, or if it has won the LOA, then they are looking for people who have got the connectivity. In fact, there is a mad race for getting the connectivity. On daily basis, on monthly basis, we are getting huge number of applications. I can tell that with LOA PPA on the LOA PPA rate route, we have got 281 applications of 74 gigawatt, and the land route we have got 323 applications of 120 gigawatt. On the BG route, we have got 686 number of applications at 187, almost 1290 applications with a 381 gigawatt of potential. But the problem is that much of land is not readily available. It is a matter of fact that RE generation will come only on the land. It cannot be on any other place. But what we have allowed them is, if you don't have a land, you come with the land BG of 10,000 megawatt per 10 lakh rupees per megawatt. So what this has done is actually there are large number of people who have taken the connectivity on land BG, and then they are looking for people who are actually having a project in their hand, and there is a thriving secondary market that is going on. In fact, the best place here would have been the entity or the agency that is carrying out bidding for the generation. If he has a connectivity, then he can as well transfer connectivity to the successful bidder, and that way ensure that connectivity is available to the agency which has won the bid. We are going the other way around. We are putting cart before the horse. The next is actually REIA, there is a renewable energy implementation agencies which are doing the generation tendering. And there is a bid process coordinator who was doing the tariff-based competitive bidding for the transmission. Both of them are working in silos. In fact, there are large number of cases where transmission, because both of them have their own process and procedure, and the time taken for each of them are different for placing the LOA or finding out the successful bidder. So that actually leads you to a situation of SCOD mismatches. The transmission has come, but generation, the SCOD is actually at a later date, and vice versa also. And at the same time, there are large number of PPA, there are large number of generation or connectivity holders of the order of 40 to 42 gigawatts who have a connectivity based on the LOA PPA rate, but the PSA is not getting signed. In fact, here actually, I would even like to tell that in the last 3 years, in the Rajasthan itself, I got a connectivity application of almost 92 gigawatt, and the all over India basis, I got the GNA application, load and application of 1.5 gigawatt. Now imagine the situation that planner is facing, that even after making all the thermal generations, only cheaper thermal generations, to 40% minimum technical dispatch of 40%, so that evening peak I should be able to serve. Then there is a surplus of almost 60 gigawatt in. So what are we trying to do? The generation developers are not looking where they are going to sell their produce. And the last point I want to tell about or bring to the notice is about the lack of planning in addressing grid inertia and the storage aspect. Right from the first 500 gigawatt report, which was published by CA in almost 2021-22, the importance of storage has been identified. Almost 52 gigawatt of storage were identified at point of time to be commissioned by 2032. But for different reasons, one or the other, maybe the batteries were not available very cheaply, or cost competitively, or the other reasons. So that in fact has led to the problem. If still we don't see a progress in the storage area, then what we are seeing is there is a problem of plenty during solar hours due to the lack of demand. The solar hours connective generations are large number of times they are curtailed because there is no taker. In fact, I have seen on the exchange the 5 paise, 10 paise, 50 paise for. The second thing is it is operational challenges to run the conventional generation for supply to the non-solar hour. And last but not the least is the inefficient utilization of transmission asset. As has been told by all the honorable speakers before me, that transmission asset, we are there is a question: are we overdoing it? To a large extent, I'll say yes, because that is leading to higher transmission cost. In fact, the transmission we are laying from Gujarat and Rajasthan as of now are used only during the solar hours. During non-solar hours, they cause a real trouble of having a surplus reactive power and the overvoltage situation. To curb that, we have to put additional reactive mechanism, or going for the HVDC. Now, HVDC is another major issue with regard to supply chain. So, utilization of the transmission system during non-solar hours. In fact, one of the recipe that made possible the amendment in the GNA regulation is to the solar and non-solar hours of connectivity. In fact, I would like to see that the transmission system that is already built is utilized by the new solar connectivity applicants with a solar with a battery energy storage, so that they can use that the same infrastructure during non-solar hours. In fact, if we add up, what we are seeing is also the charges of energy transmission. All we are seeing in separate buckets, whereas for the end consumer they actually come together. So if we see the cost of battery and compare that with the cost of HVDC, then I think the battery energy storage will come out with a cheaper solution to address the inefficient utilization of transmission system. So I think my time is almost over. So I'll skip the TBCB delay analysis try to do, and I would say thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak my mind in front of the August gathering. Thank you very much. I'll just unshare my screen.
Yeah, thank you, Dilip. Very nice presentation. Give you the overall pictures. We'll have the question answer interaction after the second paper. Until that time, please wait here. Now I
Yes.
Shri Prasad, President, Solar Project Renew Power, for his presentation on developer perspective on connectivity access. Shri Prasad, please.
Thank you.
You also for 15 minutes, so that we'll have a
Sure.
question.
Sure. So I shared the presentation earlier. I am not able to share it from here. So if you can,
Rao sir,
Rawat sir should be having it.
yeah, it is
okay.
here.
So
It is on the
thank
screen.
you. Thank you, and respected Mr. Saigi, Mr. Nag, and Mr. Natha, and Mr. Jha, and the participants of this conference. So thank you, first of all, for this opportunity. I'm not very sure that, so, my presentation may contain, have some content which are not in line with what has been discussed. So I'll take the developer's perspective. I think the problem which all of you have described, you, Mr. Jha, is the big gap between the generation and the transmission. The problem is the same, but our view is slightly different, because as a country, we have a growth plan and a carbon commitment, which is fully aligned with the renewable generation. So I think the problem which we need to look at is how do we reach that level of renewable generation and renewable in the system, while considering all the constraints which have been already discussed about. One obviously is the transmission constraint, and one is the grid stability. Now, obviously, grid stability is a very vast subject and not a subject of this discussion. So I will focus this discussion mostly on the match or mismatch between the generation and the transmission. My experience in grid sector is about 22 years, worked in companies like Alstom and GE, purely in the transmission distribution sector. And then last 5.5 years, I'm fully into renewable sector as a part of the developer team. I take care of the solar and storage business for Renew. So this is a slide about Renew. I will not get into the details. It's a 15-year-old company, a leading pure play renewable energy company. We have more than 11 gigawatt of installed capacity, and we have about 18 gigawatt of capacity in pipeline, including the solar and wind. And in addition, we have about 5 gigawatt hour of battery storage to be executed in the next 3-4 years. And the major constraint that we face is obviously the land availability and connectivity availability. Now, I think my numbers would be more or less what has been already described, but let me restate the problem from a developer's perspective. If we can move to the next slide, please. Rawatji. Okay. So, very clear to the August audience. I just want to show that point of inflection of this green red line is the overall power generation, and the green one is the renewable energy generation. The point of inflection was 2013-14. And the future of next 4 to 5 years, there's going to be a huge surge again in the renewable as per the plan. And the interesting part is there is also going to be a huge surge in the battery storage, either as a storage, as a standalone solution or a service, or as a part of hybrid or complex round-the-clock projects. This inflection has started in 2024. Today we have about 500 megawatt hour commission, but we are targeting to reach 208 gigawatt hour by end of 2030 as per the CEA report. So there's an inflection which is caused by two major reasons. One, obviously, the grid stability and the over generation of solar during the daytime. Second, obviously, is the kind of crashed and come to very optimal level, or rather a very affordable level from the China supply chain. So next 5 years looks very good for renewable industry in terms of the requirement as a part of our global view of shifting to renewable generation, as well as the opportunity which is presented. But the question which we have is today, is it a good news for the grid? Obviously, part of the answer is again related with the grid stability. And are the developers happy about this situation? Are we happy as a developer team? Now, if we go to the next slide, I would say that the happiness index is not very good. So over 50 gigawatt, and this was mentioned earlier, of renewable energy capacity is now constrained because of transmission issues. This represents about 2.5 lakh crores of investment if I take a conservative view. This doesn't include the cost of delay and cost of penalties and all that. And this is the amount of money which is stuck, and this money stuck has a cascading effect in terms of the confidence of the developers as well as confidence of the investors and the financial agencies. And there are delays which you have already talked about, right of way being one of them, but not the only reason for that. Delayed in ordering and a lot of supply chain issues. Not having enough days, I would say, in some of the equipment that could be taken from different sources. But at the same time, we have about 71% of lines which are not getting utilized. On an average, 30%. I'm not sure there are more experts in this field than this. This is data which I gathered from one of the reports. But it looks obviously, as Mr. Dilip pointed out, there are gaps between the requirement, which is huge. And why it is happening, that we'll discuss briefly in the next slides. Now, again, this number also was mentioned by Mr. Jha, 42% of shortfall. If you see this graph on the right side, this is plan versus actual transmission line execution. And the average is unfortunately coming down. Last year was 42, and the 2020, I would say partly because of COVID and other issues, but it was again very low percentage compliance. So this is the situation we are in, and this is definitely going to impact very heavily on our target for 500 gigawatt of renewable energy by end of 2030. Can we move to the next slide, please? So we try to analyze a bit of the reason, and we see the last 12 years of renewable growth versus the transmission line on the left side and the transmission interstate transmission capacity on the right side. While there is an appreciable effort and improvement in the transmission MVA capacity, which is growing very steeply, but again, as we all saw, that the renewable energy growth is faster in terms of the ramp up, has been so far, and will find a bit of problem for next 2 years or 3 years because of the constraint which we already discussed. And if you look at the transmission line, unfortunately, there is a dip which we discussed in the last slide, in the last couple of years, where it should have. At the same time, I agree to the point that the transmission line utilization is not complete in many of the areas, but the transmission line installation is also, while it is pretty big compared to any other country. I was talking to some people in Europe, and they said it takes 5 to 8 years to get the license and construction a new line. Problem is they have intentionally moving to renewable as a matter of obligation to renewable generation, but their capacity otherwise is enough. They can switch back to nuclear or thermal, and some of them are already doing it. But for us, we have 1/4 of their capacity in terms of per head capacity, or 1/6 of their per utilization per capita. And for us, it is an imperative, not a luxury, to move to this. So this is a problem which we all need to solve. We can move to then why there is a gap between these two things. We can move to the next slide, please. Again, these are our analyses. If you look at the renewable generation plan versus the transmission capacity plan, just numbers, obviously, that are indicative of the percentage of the overall which each state has. And if you look at the RE focus, and there are multiple reasons for that, land availability, radiation, wind corridors. This is Rajasthan, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra, AP and MP. This is the order in which the RE focus is happening, and it has been happening from very beginning. And the transmission focus in terms of the asset investment and asset creation is focused in a different way. It's Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu, and MP. This is the gap between the RE development plan and the transmission development plan. And this is definitely a reason, and I think this was mentioned by earlier speakers also, that every one of us IPPs are going to certain areas of the country. But let me go to the next slide to explain that it's not a surprise that we are all going there. If you can move to the next slide. Rawatji, please, I can't control it from here, so request you to move to the next slide. Jasab, can you hear? Yeah, okay. So this is a map. If you look at the transmission capacity, the network, and it's a very high level map. Obviously, we can't show all the transmission line capacities in India. It's a very high level map. And if you look at the renewable generation plan, which was in 2021 report, and when I say 2021 report, I'm sure the study would have been done in 2019 and 20, very clearly showing the renewable energy in orange and pink circles, which is bound to happen in Gujarat and Rajasthan, and some part of South in Tamil Nadu. And if you look at the transmission system, very clearly showing a big gap in terms of the high level evacuation at those points. So it's not a surprise. And I'm not here to say why the transmission planning happened. I'm sure there are plenty of reasons and very, very good reasons for showing a representative graph. It is not a surprise that IPPs were moving to that in recent years. We have been planning to move there because of certain reasons, and it was very well acknowledged reasons for these locations. So this is a fact. Maybe the mismatch in two things, I would say. One is the execution timeline. The transmission line today, if I take out HVDC, that is 48 to 54 months. And I know that everybody is pushing for 40 months, but I've been there. We have done HVDCs, and there are certain timelines which cannot be compressed. We know this issue. So HVDC is one thing. Even a proper 300-kilometer network is going to take 4 years, 3 to 4 years now, with considering all these issues. Whereas the solar, we are able to set up a 300 megawatt plant in less than 12 months. And in wind, it is maybe 18 months. So this is the time gap. Second, to some extent, I would say, there is a question always of, which investment to happen first. Socialized investment in view of creating a broad pathway for all the generation to come, or wait for the generation to happen before you invest in socialized, capitals. But then in that case, this was not considered that the timing required for both will be different, and that's where we are having this 3 to 4 years of challenge now. We can move to the next slide. Again, I'm not here to put a blame on anybody. I'm just saying there's a gap between what was happening and what is the situation today. Now, I'm sure we cannot offer a solution to a very complex problem, and I'm sure a lot of very learned and respected people are working on this problem. But very briefly, what we see here is one, a lack of unified transmission generation planning to align timeline. Even today, when we are talking now, how we are going to do it, whether it is taking 3 to 4 years, fine, we'll have a problem 3-4 years, but then we'll pick up and we'll be aligned fully. So that planning has to happen, and to some extent, which we know, it is not happening. And if it is happening, somewhere it needs to be more effective, to be very frank. Second is, in my opinion, in our opinion, I would say, very, very precise monitoring of transmission line progress, the critical transmission line progress, especially work balance versus the committed completion plan. Now, what is happening in our opinion, as IPPs, I'm telling you this, again, without blaming any transmission developer, which I know is a very, very difficult job. What's happening today is, in the review meetings, when there is a pressure, people are committing dates. 30% of the job is completed in 18 months. And then there is a commitment of completing balance 70% next 6 months. And this is recorded, and IPPs like us, we work based on these plans. We develop, and every plant requires investment. We put about 12,000 crores of investment, Renew as a company, into this every year. And I'm sure if you multiply every other investors doing it, you are running to hundreds of crores. Lakh of crores. Now, this investment is largely based on the timeline which you receive. So my point I'm saying is that has to be very critically monitored. And the investor should be very clear when are the timelines happening. And then obviously there has to be support for ROW from government, but ROW cannot be an excuse for everybody and for every delay. This has to be, there is a responsibility from that side of developers, including us, including everyone, to sort it out and lot of things.
To conclude it,
I'm final, my final word. So that is on the ROW. Then so accelerated adoption of storage and reconductoring. And then the question is, what are the IPPs incentivized? How are the IPPs incentivized to do this? So that's a question, and that's a lot of things are regulatory issues which is being addressed, like night connectivity and the trading. And favorable conditions for IP to use nighttime connectivity is another point. And then last point, because we are facing about 40 to 50% curtailment because of TGNA. Is there any way to compensate the IPs for curtailment issues because of transmission delays? So these are my points. Thank you for allowing me this time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you both, Dilip Rojekar and Shiv Prasad, for excellent insights. We now have about 5 minutes for question answer or interaction. Please post your questions in the chat or raise your hands. So in the meantime, I have got two chat, Dilip and Shiv Prasad. This is from Pratik Agarwal from Stellite or New name. Also, 40 gigawatt connectivity is blocked where PPA is not likely to get signed by states. A lot of this get operationalized in next 12-24 months. How do we ensure this connectivity is not good use opportunity of CNI for PPAs? Dilip, if you don't want to answer, you can answer later on. But if you have any idea, you can.
No, fine. Actually, it is a knowledge to the concerned authorities that such PPAs are not getting signed from the DISCOM side, from the buyer side, and there is a committee of additional secretary level. They had gone into it and made some recommendation, and that will be implemented in due course of time.
Achha. One flag is raised, Ajay Sankarji. Sir, please go ahead.
First of all, thank you for organizing this discussion on a very critical issue. So my comments are somewhat unrelated, but all connected to the core issue. So the first point is that wherever solar generation is taking place, the point has been made, it's highlighted, that if you create storage where there is solar generation, the cost of transmission comes down.
Yeah.
And the need for transmission capacity comes down. So there is need for a very stronger push for inviting bids for storage alone and at sites where the transmission is available. If you do that, the transmission capacity is fully utilized and the cost comes down. The other bigger advantage of storage is, and which is not being seen clearly, though it was mentioned in passing, that if you have storage, thermal PLF need not come down to 40%. You see, we are thinking of storage as a way of getting round the clock green carbon-free electricity. That is a long way off. Our immediate goal should be to have enough storage that thermal PLF goes up to 80%. We don't build new thermal power plants assuming that thermal will be only 40%. And we have enough storage to use all our thermal capacity as well as solar capacity. So if I had my way, I would say that we'll invite bids for storage every year, 1.5 to 2 times the quantity for which solar bids are being invited. The second point is the second point is that battery storage, the prices have come down and we are getting very good response to bids, so we should accelerate that. But there is a proven technology of concentrated solar thermal, which for some reason is getting no attention from either policymakers or developers. When the solar mission was started, I had something to do with it, and we invited bids for concentrated solar thermal. Out of the many contracts bids awarded, most of them didn't take off, but 150 megawatt is running for 13 or 12 years, and the developer is making very good money. And he has said that his cost of maintenance is very low. So it's a proven technology. And if we start inviting bids, then they can come up wherever the solar projects have been put up. Because wherever there is a solar project, a concentrated solar thermal can be put up next to it. And again, the same benefits would flow as are flowing from battery storage. So Dubai, I think 2 years back, they commissioned a huge plant, which was solar thermal plus CSP. And the price they got was 7 cents a unit. Now we can easily invite a bid for even 50 megawatts of CSP and see what the bid is, instead of trying to do some theoretical techno-economic calculations. The solar mission took off because the bidding process was very simple. I will pay you for the price per unit of electricity. The same can be extended to CSP. Let's see how developers come forward. And the overall expectation is the price will come down dramatically. Now, my final point is, and that's the tough one, the mismatch problems that have been mentioned will be there next 3-4 years. I don't see an overnight solution. But a theoretical solution would require us to rethink how we develop transmission. And which means that we need to find some SECI type body which takes a longer term view and gets transmission capacity created ahead of time. This transmission is equivalent to a highway network. Now, highway network, nobody says that I should have traffic before I build. So we need some other body which will create transmission capacity ahead of time and find some way of paying for that capacity till money comes in a regular way. And that is the socialization of the cost. And if we do that kind of planning well ahead of time, then a lot of HVDC lines of very high capacity from areas of concentrated solar thermal generation would make enormous sense. And I think the country needs that. Thank you.
Yeah, you have concluded very well, sir. And Mr. Dilip Projector, COC2 has also mentioned about battery storage. Yes, sir. Any next
And each of these points I'd be happy to clarify separately or later,
Right.
because
Sure,
it's a lot of things concentrated in a few sentences.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. So one more question is from Nikhil Pal. Given the daytime dominance of solar generation connectivity on the transmission system, is there any initiative to optimize transmission capacity through relocation of strategy or by facilitating nighttime connectivity? Philip, you have to answer or?
Yes, yes. I think I briefly touched upon that. Through the third amendment in the GNA regulation, the regulatory provision has been created for the nighttime connectivity, and the regulation also provide that the first 3 months will be given the priority for those people who have already got a solar hour connectivity to plan for having more battery energy storage within solar campus, and after that it will be thrown open. The balance margins will be available for people to take, and we will be in fact giving more focus on giving the nighttime connectivity. Thank you.
No more questions. We are now, sir. There's a good session, sir. Ajay Shankar ji have very well concluded that there should be, if battery is placed along with the solar, the transmission need will be reduced. Per unit price will go down, and transmission capacity should be ahead of time. That is the basic purpose of this session, planning. I don't know whether any plan is there, like 80 gigawatt potential is there in Khavda. I don't know what is the plan to develop all 81 gigawatt in 2-3 years, or 5 years, or 6 years, so that transmission can plan accordingly. We don't know what are the prioritized area in first 2-3 years, whether Karnataka will come or the Jaisalmer will come, unless the planning will be coordinated well in the generation side. Then the planning of transmission will be very difficult, and this type of those should be still there. Just as there is a key takeaway of this session is urgent need of synchronized planning between RE generation and transmission system. Thank you. Now we are moving to session 2, execution bottlenecks in transmission projects. This session focus on ground level executive bottlenecks. Here also we have the two presentations. The first presentation, for the first I invite Sri Nihar Raj, Senior Vice President, O&M, Adani Energy Solutions Limited, for his presentation on tight schedule versus ground realities. Because a lot of people are saying that the timeline set by the city or the SECI or whatever it is, according to generation, that is very tight schedule. Just go ahead, Mr. Nihar Raj.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, Sai sir. Good afternoon, Vyas sir. Good afternoon, all the dignitaries, and thanks to Indian Energy Forum for this opportunity. It's really very good discussions that we are having when we are having an ambitious target of having 500 gigawatt of renewable generation, being one of the largest grid in the world with more than 494,000 of circuit kilometer of transmission lines. Still, we have seen the interesting problems which was shared by earlier speakers and also by Sahi sir and also by Jasa. I believe that there have been a lot of interesting challenges coming on the transmission side, and I'll be taking few of the concepts which we are seeing right now on the grounds and what are the kind of problems that we are facing. I'm sure the problems will be common for all the developers. The very first problem that we see is basically the land issue. When we are talking about the renewable sources, the renewable energy integration, one very interesting aspects that we have seen is more of HVDC now coming into the grid. When we are talking about HVDC, there is a large requirement of land portion for the terminal stations, for the converter and the inverter stations. Now, this is one of the huge requirements, and the land patches are not so easily available. This is one of the very interesting aspects. So the idea is, how do we see that we really optimize these footprints, and how do we go with the minimum requirement of land? Another very interesting challenge that we are seeing on the ground is the stage-wise addition of bays in the existing station. Now, let me take an example of one of our stations where we see that earlier, example, Nakalia, where we have Adani making the station, then we have Sterlite coming in, then we have Power Grid coming in, then we have again Adani coming in, now we have Reliance coming in. So in stage wise, lot of developers have come in a single area. Now this, I would just like to touch upon the part which was touched by Dilip ji also when he talked about planning. It's very important that when we are procuring the land of the substation, are we going to procure it for 2-stage, 3-stage, or for the entire stage? And that is where planning and ensuring that all the aspects are taken care in a single go for land procurement becomes very, very important. Otherwise, the cost of land is going on increasing, and this is impacting all the financial calculations which are related with the project execution. Another very interesting aspect which we have also seen is the land availability time, which should be to an order of 2 to 3 months, ideally speaking, is now even taking to a time of 5 to 8 months. Now, with the ambitious timelines that we have for the project execution, land becomes very crucial. And in case the procurement of land is getting delayed, or if the land is not available in a single patch, there are a lot of issues that incurs with the design aspects, with the civil construction aspects, and that way it impacts the entire project timeline. So here I would say that there would be really very interesting aspect in case the state utilities, the state administrative authorities can really take a lead where along with the BPC, where all these land requirements are identified and within a certain timeline of say 2 to 3 months, we are in a position to get this entire land taking the support from the state administrative utilities. So these are all the things which are very, very important as far as the transmission service providers are concerned for developing the utilities. Another very important aspect is the planning that we are doing for the procurement of land. As I mentioned to you, should be in a single step, and that is where what planning we are doing today for 5 years. We are seeing that the RE integration requirements needs to be evaluated every 1 year, 2 year, 3 year to see exactly what is the total land requirement, so that all the constructional aspects in the existing utility base can also be planned accordingly. There are a lot of interfaces that happens between the existing utility and the new upcoming utility. So all this planning requires a careful understanding for a successful, seamless integration of the new RE base. So these are one of the aspects which we see from the land side. Another aspect which has been already talked about is on the ROW clearance. We have already learned that nearly 14 to 15 ISPS networks have been delayed on account of the ROW issues. So it has to be really looked upon that how fast we can make the process to get the license and approval of Section 164 for the developers. There has been some instances where this approval has taken a considerable time of nearly 3 to 4 months. In some case, it is more than 6 months. In some case, it is 8 months. Until and unless this clearance is available, a local administrative support becomes really difficult for the service providers, for the developers, and that is where this impacts the overall project schedules as well. Submission would be that why can't we have certain corridors where this kind of green power evacuation aspects, whenever are being considered, at that point of time, all these approvals can be expedited from the administrative authorities. Why can't we have a single window where all these approvals, may it be in forest clearance, may it be certain license requirements, may it be grid connection, everything goes through a single window, and that is where all these things can be coordinated, can be expedited, and can be learned very easily where the delays are. I believe this is something which we should really come up with. Other than this, the support from the state utilities, the state authorities, and also the PPC will be playing a very, very important role. ROW aspects are really growing day by day, because when we see the new reports coming in, nearly 60% of the transmission pockets are there in western region, northern region. The ROW cost is going on increasing day by day. Even if we have the DM intervention, I believe the time that is being taken for resolution of certain activities could really be done on a faster pace. While we have these issues, it will be really worth to understand that when we have the existing corridors, why not utilize DLRs, which was already discussed in the communication earlier, which could lead to more evacuation power through the same lines. Also see to it whether we FSC in order to increase the power carrying capacity on the same lines, so that we don't need to put additional lines. Other than that, we could also see that on the same towers, we could have HVDC, HVAC arrangements, so that the number of line corridors again reduces. And more or less, it would be really good to explore that could we have shared assets on the same tower, multi-circuit tower going through forest? Could we have multiple lines from different developers going on the same tower? So that the requirement of the land, the requirement of the forest clearances, the other administrative aspects can be reduced. On the same assets, we can have more power going through the same line. The power density requirements can increase, and thereby it will be a win-win condition for all. Of course, I see this would be really very interesting thing to explore going forward in the future. Another aspect which we see is basically the forest clearance. Of course, we have talked about it in the previous presentations also. Forest clearance also is one thing, the stage 1 clearance. It is today taking a good amount of time. The idea is, if we need to really push this kind of RE evacuation faster, Today, if at all it is taking 250 days or it is going to take 180 days, can this approval be done in 40 to 50 days? This is the areas where we have to really think on, and we have to see how we can create a faster approval mechanism, especially for the green energy corridors which have already been identified. Can all these approvals be expedited? Third problem which we see on the ground is, of course, the availability of the equipments like transformers and reactors, where we understand that all the manufacturing facilities have been full for next 2 to 3 years. Now, idea is to see, as we are talking about reconductoring aspects, could we also have some projects where we can change within the existing transformers with a good residual life already available? Can we turn the oil from the conventional oil to natural esters or synthetic esters, thereby which in the existing base we can start evacuating more power? Now, this is something which needs to be explored as we are talking about the reconductoring. From the same assets, we are trying to squeeze out more power. In the same way, from the same assets, could we really think of transmitting more power? Thereby, we do away with the requirement of getting more assets or more lines which are passing through forest areas, and thereby also try to create N-1 into the grid, with which the grid security and reliability is being taken care of. Another aspect is, when we are talking about the RE integration, HVDC becomes very, very important aspects. Now, we have already talked that there are very few OEMs with respect to HVDC aspects. It will be very interesting to explore that could we have modularized, standardized designs with respect to different HVDC configurations. Rather having different configurations, can we have fixed modular design configurations with which the requirements of spares can be reduced over a period of time? There can be easy sharing of assets in case it is required during contingency period. So these are some aspects which we would really like to present. Other than this, we would also say that there are very interesting operational challenges which are also being seen in the existing sets with a lot of RE integration coming in, especially the wire compensation aspects, which is leading to maximum operation of the switch gears. In some of the stations, we have seen a 765 kV line being operated 2 times in a day just for the requirement of wire compensation. Now, these aspects are really stressing the assets which are there on the ground, and those assets which were made for a design life of 35 years, 25 years are being stressed out, which is directly impacting the overall project costing over the period of time. And even for the asset owners, this is really creating a new kind of challenge, because the conventional philosophies of maintaining those assets are not being honored, and we need to really think of how we can help these assets to live over a long period of time. So, and other than this, we also see, yes, skilled manpower is also one of the interesting challenge that we are facing on the ground, and the use of mechanized erection is something that the teams are exploring right now in order to see how we can overcome the problem of skilled manpower, especially on the ground for tower erections. So this is what basically I would like to share on behalf of Adani Energy Solutions Limited, and happy to have any questions or suggestions from the August meeting. Thank you. Sir, you are on mute.
Thank you, Senior. And it was good. You have given a good picture. The land is the image, normally the issues, forest clearance, etc. Now, there will be a question answer after the second presentation. Now, I invite for second presentation, Sri Ganesh Srinivasan, President TND KEC, for the presentation on challenges in construction, supply chain constraints, and manpower skill manpower. Mr. Ganesh, Are you there?
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are doing that. Presentation is not.
Just a minute. It is. Yeah. Am I audible now? Audible and visible?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Apurva, can you just project the slides, please?
तो इसमें क्या बोलना क्या चाह रहे हैं एनर्जी कंजर्वेशन
Are my slides visible, sir? Sorry,
slide is yet to be seen.
Slide is yet to be seen. Okay. Yeah, now it is.
Yeah, now it is there.
Yeah. So Apurva, can you please put it in slideshow mode, please? So firstly, sir, I would like to thank Shahi Saab, Jha Saab, all the senior power sector veterans for the opportunity to share my perspective and KEC's perspective as an EPC. Thank you for the opportunity, and it's great to have this chance to connect through the India Energy Forum. So I will, if you go to the next slide, please, Apurva. So I will be talking about the challenges of construction, primarily of the transmission system, both lines and substation. And as outlined, two main areas that were advised to focus on. One is on the supply chain and another on skill gap. Just a minute on KEC. We are basically an organization which has a footprint in 100 odd countries over time. At this point, we are working in about 25 countries. And we have close to 7,500 employees, and we operate across multiple segments in EPC. T&D being the largest, close to 50% of the company's projects are in transmission space. Civil is also a large sector. Transportation, renewables, oil and gas, and cables and conductor is a manufacturing. So we are present across these dimensions, but we started our journey with T&D and it continues to remain the largest part of our portfolio. Yeah, go ahead, please, Apurva. Yeah. So I think we all are aware that the need for transmission is the expected run rate for achieving the capacity addition is quite significant. And as we have discussed in multiple talks today, the ask, whether it is in the 2022 to 2027 and further 2027 to 2032, there is a significant asking rate where there is, as Shahi Saab also rightly mentioned in his opening address, that the time gap between addition of transmission versus the addition of generation, that poses a challenge, and further that issue is accentuated by the fact that both supply chain challenges as well as skill gap issues, apart from ROW, do make a difference as far as the time frame is concerned. To put it in perspective, we need to build about 23,000 circuit kilometers every year. That is, just to put an analogy, building transmission lines from Mumbai to New York every year. And that is what the asking rate is to meet the requirements of the National Electricity Plan. Go ahead, please. Yeah. So just wanted to recap some of the key supply chain challenges and skill gap challenges that we see, and then we'll move into on what I think are and KEC's view on some of the solutions. So one is, of course, from a supply chain perspective, the lead time of the key equipments, anywhere between 15 to 18 months plus for circuit breakers, transformers, GIS bays. So the lead time is a major determinant, and particularly when most of the transmission schemes are having a time frame somewhere between 18 to 24 months, 21 months. So this makes quite a bit of challenge in getting the equipment at the right time and a sufficient time for commissioning and testing, etc. HVDC, I think Jha Saab also mentioned it in his address, that HVDC LCC equipment is very limited options, and also in terms of consistency of again, this has been something that IPTA has brought in, that the treatment of Section 144, which is procurement from countries with land borders, the approach, whether Chinese equipment, what is the way to deal with it, particularly for HVDC when the options are very limited. That is something that is a challenge in making the supply chain challenges more critical. The second challenge which complicates the situation further is, even one can understand for transmission lines there is ROW, but there are several instances of delayed handover of substation land as well. In fact, anywhere from 3 to 6 months after the award of the contract, the land for the substation is not fully ready or not handed over officially to the EPC. So obviously the engineering and the other aspects remain go on a delayed path, and this puts enormous pressure on the execution, particularly both on the supply chain and the execution, to give sufficient time. We don't have sufficient time for doing a quality job as far as with the delayed handover of the substation land. And third is the complexity of the transmission build out versus the renewable generation. So these are the three aspects that, apart from actual lead time, certain things that we can do differently can be done, and I'll come to that in the subsequent slides. From a skill gap, there is an enormous challenge as we continue to build out our transmission infrastructure. The sector has not yet fully addressed the need for this in a professional way, how to augment the skill requirements, how to augment the construction workforce. And a large part of our construction workforce is pretty much trained on the job. There is no formal process of training, though there are ITIs, there are other vocational centers, but practically there is a huge gap with respect to formally trained construction workforce in comparison with any other developed markets, or even China one can compare. In addition, there is a booming market in Middle East, whether it is Saudi, UAE, and for the remuneration that the technicians get there, the Indian market is less attractive, and to that extent, it also puts an additional pressure for the Indian construction supply of technical and skilled workforce to be available. And lastly, the supply and demand mismatch. We have a labor supply largely in the east versus demand, which is primarily in north, west, and now one can say also in Madhya Pradesh largely. So there are oftentimes periods of time when there is migration back to the east, and time is hence lost between mobilization and demobilization during the year, during different periods. Now being an important time period, Diwali, Chhat, etc., will all impact the productivity of the workforce. So these are just a snapshot. I think all of you are aware of it as veterans in the sector, but I just thought I will recap some of the challenges that we face. If you go to the next slide, please, Bapurva. So this is a slide which has come out, which I got from an open source available. As you can see, the dots indicate the deviation from the plan year on year with respect to the National Electricity Plan. And as you can see, FY23, FY24, FY25, the deviation with respect to the transmission addition has only increased. Of course, it largest was during the COVID year, FY20, which understandably the gap would have been high. But what is concerning is now we have close to a 45% gap in FY25 with respect to what the build out has to be versus the plan. And as the run rate for capacity addition and renewable addition increases, the pressure on supply chain, the pressure on workforce, skill, ROW, all is going to intensify. And it is great that as India Energy Forum, this subject is highlighted here so that we can constructive solutions can be discussed about it. If you go to the next slide, please. This is a bit of a financial picture, which I thought. As you can see on the left-hand side, this is the ratio of the capital work in process to the gross fixed assets. and this is for one of the largest transmission companies that we have. As you can see, the CWIP to GFA ratio has continuously increased. And while of course the scale of capex is also increasing, as you can see, the scale of the GFA has increased by about 8% between 24 to 26, but the CWIP has increased to 183%, capitalization by 11%. So a lot of money is stuck because of completion not being achieved for various reasons, ROW being one, equipment being the other, skill mismatch being the other. So on average, we have close to, in this case, 40,000 crores of CWIP, and 14% of our GFA is stuck in CWIP. So more efficient, if you can see previous quarters, somewhere between 5 to 7% is a healthy ratio. And this means that addressing this problem can create a value of close to 2,500 crores for this company alone. And if you look at it overall for the sector, maybe about 4,000 crores of value can be unlocked if solutions pertaining to execution, construction, timely execution are addressed. So I just thought it will be helpful to put a rupee number to the problem so that it can bring sufficient focus, and the scale of the solutions also can be matched to the quantum of challenge that we have at the from a financial perspective. Okay. If you can go to the next slide, Apurva. So this is another slide that we got from our sources BCG. If you look at the productivity of the Chinese EPCs, this is only tower erection, because from a construction perspective, the biggest challenge, as you all know, is tower erection, where we have an acute shortage of skilled manpower, and I will focus more on that aspect. Average, if you see, it takes an Indian EPC about 1,100 to 1,400 man days per kilometer for a 765 kV line. The same Indian EPCs, whether it is KEC, Kalpataru, L&T, etc., take roughly half the time in Middle East. Of course, environment is different, but still, it is possible for the same companies to operate with 2x the productivity as they are operating in India. But if you compare that with Chinese EPCs, are able to do that in 1/3 the time. Now that can be due to mechanization, that is due to digitization, training, productivity levels, multiple factors that go together, and I'm sure many of the panelists will also speak further on this. But this is what is the possibility, that we can achieve a 3x improvement in productivity, and thereby the 2,500 or 4,000, 3,000 crores of value can be unlocked if we are able to work on the skilled aspects and the supply chain related aspects. If you go to the next slide. Yeah, just click once more, please. So I would like to first focus more on the supply chain and some of the, I would say, aspects that we have raised in other forums as well, in industry forums, as well as our views. So one is there is a need for a more constructive PLI for T&D equipment, particularly given that all the PLI schemes, whether it is semiconductor, whether it is batteries, whether it is solar, all of them ultimately require transmission to make it successful. Without that, each of these individual industries that Government of India rightly wants to indigenize and make strong, it is very, very critical to have. I think Ministry of Power last year also there was work done both on the EMA side as well as on CII or FICCI, but more shape can be given, and the stalwarts in the forum here, it would be great if we are able to crystallize something concrete on this. HVDC, I think enough has been spoken on it. I think focus on HVDC equipment, particularly selective usage of Chinese manufactured equipment, particularly from European, US, Korean, Japanese OEMs. We need to open our sector to beyond European manufacturers, particularly in areas where there is a serious constraint. Yes, it is geopolitically challenging, but if it is OEM is European, US, Korean, or Japanese, I think that is a a prudent policy that can be taken up to address some of the challenges that we have. Also, as domestic players, there is news, for example, that Hosung is collaborating with a domestic player to for manufacturing in India, or further expanding the manufacturing in India. So more such policy level actions can help in resolving some of the supply chain challenges. So that is number one.
Try to conclude.
Yeah. 2 minutes, sir. 2 minutes. Sir. Yeah. The second aspect is, of course, standardization. I think there are certain aspects that we can definitely focus on. Standardizing some of the tower designs. There is a lot of variety that comes in during the TBCB, and of course, optimization is required. But the incremental value add versus the lead time that it takes to achieve that, I think this is something that can be rethought. Similarly, the modularity of the substations. It is a common practice in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, where the substations are quite modular. And again, there is a cost benefit with respect to the optimization versus pre-bid that can be done, so that all the designs are standardized rather than variety of designs. Last 1 minute, if you want skill enhancement, Purva. So I think I'll focus more on the substation, on the electrical tower erection. Apurva, if you can click, please. One is a national registry for tower erection technicians. I think it's very critical because there is very limited standardized or organized database available of transmission technicians for tower erection. This can help in skill enhancement. This can help in sharing across, mobilizing across different across different players. The second is scale. Again, we are operating at a very, very subscale level today. For the ambition that we have, we need more aggregators who can help in bringing greater professionalism, higher standards of safety. And lastly, the retention. I think is very critical. There is a lot of attrition at the sites, which impacts skill, which impacts productivity. Close to 70,000 crores of BOCW funds is underutilized or unutilized. It can be more productively used. And all companies, we need to substantially invest in better living conditions at the site. At the end of the day, that is what will hold people at the site and make it to some extent part of standard conditions in the tender. So these are some of the suggestions, sirs, for that we had in mind. Open for any discussion subsequently in the process. Thank you, Jasab. Thank you, Shahiji, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Sri Giresh. Very good presentation. We have brought in a lot of new things that manpower requirement here is three times the channel for the same line or same kilometer of line. Nevertheless, now 5 minutes there for question answer. If there are any question, raise your hand or post your questions. Any questions? If it is not that we are already getting delayed, we are moving to the next session.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you again. Next session is technology and ability levels. The basic theme here, basic purpose is our final session looks at technological solution and enabling regulatory frameworks. For the first presentation, I invite Sri Prasad Sinha, CEO Risonia, for his presentation on use of technology and digital solution for faster execution. Mr. Prasad.
Thank you, Jasar, and thank you, honorable dignitaries, for making such good presentations. A lot of takeaways from each one of you of your presentations, and particularly encouraging was Ganesh, where he highlighted the core issue as far as construction is concerned. Every one of us talked about sync in planning and execution. Ganesh highlighted the real issue related with execution. So I'll just take it from where he left and what we as a developer is doing it. So I'll just try and share a presentation so that it will be easier for everyone to understand. Is it visible? Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it is there. Go ahead.
Sure. Thanks. So as Ganesh
Native
said, the
policy.
problem
Use
statement
native
is really
policy.
that we have a real turnaround problem with man days. Okay, we almost take 1500 man days per kilometer, and which was okay till 3 years back. But now, when the entire market was around 5,000 6,000 crore a year, but now all of a sudden market has grown by 25 30 times. So our market is right now 1 lakh 1,50,000 crore. So this kind of huge manpower requirement is unsustainable, and as a result, what uh, Ganesh has said, that the share of CWIP is only increasing. Okay, and that's very alarming. And if you see, the lot of renewable projects would be stranded if the transmission project doesn't come up in time. So the conventional transmission line construction method is all dated and doesn't have a future, but unfortunately we are still stuck with them. So we at Resonia took a onus on ourselves, and we said that we will be solving this problem, and internally we have taken a target of bringing 1500 man days per kilometer to just about 200 man days per kilometer, which is somewhere about same as Europe. These are the European standards which we would like to achieve to. And in that process we are working with our partners, particularly EPC contractors, and also we have set up a separate team, a mechanization dedicated team to bring the best of the technologies to the country to achieve this target. uh, we have listed out few of the things, and it's just grouped as pre, during, and post. What do you do before the work starts or before the construction starts? It's mostly survey works. Now how that survey works can be automated completely and move to lidar come drone surveys. That's one part. For execution, we have already started using drone for stringing purpose. Now we are about to do a pilot in the month of November where we'll be using drone for logistic purposes. We have developed 200 kg drones with our partners to move the material from one place to the other. This will be really helpful for hilly terrain and terrains that are not accessible or easily accessible. So aerial logistic is where we are working both with drone as well as with
Prasad, your
helicopter.
slide is not moving.
Pardon?
Slide is not moving. Presentation slide is not moving.
Is it not there?
Yeah,
Second
it is there.
slide.
It is the first slide still.
Okay, let me share again and see how it works.
Otherwise, go ahead. Your voice is very clear.
Is it moving now? Can you see
Yes.
technologies across
Yes.
project phases?
Yeah, it is there. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll not keep it in a presentation mode. Hopefully this will work. Okay. So as I said, pre is lidar drone. During it is more about heli cranes, drones, and of course the crane erections. Crane erection is something which is widely used in Middle East and Middle East, Africa, and all of the Europe, primarily because of the reason that you also have to construct the road along with the transmission lines. So the conventional crane works, but it's not the case in India. India doesn't have any place for crane erections, or even if it is 10, 15, 20%, it doesn't solve the problem. So we have to come up with different solution, and we'll be talking about in the rest of the slides. The other one is post erection. Once the project goes into an O&M phase, there are many things which can be done, and which have already started, using drone, using robots, making the substations digital, unmanned patrolling. All those things are possible using IoT and drone and AI. So let's go to the. Is the slide moved?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So what we are doing right now, which we have already started, and we are going full throttle on it, is drone based stringing. The drone is now being used to pull the pilot wire, and then the pilot wire is used with tensioner and puller to pull the conductors. This we have already done successfully in Rajasthan. Almost 200 250 kilometers of stringing has been done based on drone. And going forward, each and every project of ours will be done based on drone. The productivity with drone can be as high as 21 kilometer per gang, which is roughly only about 4 to 5 kilometers a gang per gang with the conventional method. So you can increase the productivity by 4 to 5 times. Then as I told about that, we are running a pilot in the month of November where we'll be using drone to move 200 kgs of payloads. We are also parallelly working to increase the load capacity of these drones. We are facing different challenges, some coming from technology, some coming from regulatory, but yeah, we are working dedicatedly on this. The idea is to take the payload as high as possible and move the uh, entire inventory through drone, particularly for hilly areas. The other thing which we have done successfully, and we were the pioneer, is helicrane. Helicrane is used for both underslung operation. Underslung is basically movement of material, and the precision flying, which is to do for which we have done for erection. So uh, for both parts, it can be done, and we were the pioneer in bringing this technology to India, along with our partners. The some of the technologies that we can use on ground is the foundation where which takes maximum time. Foundation out of the three is the slowest, and that is where we are trying to use helical foundation. These are very aggressively used in North America and Europe. We are just trying to bring this technology to India, where we will use the helical piles to do the foundation, and these piles using a torque head will go inside, will use the friction of the soil to generate the requisite torque and provide the requisite stability. The other one that we are trying to do is the double arm gin pole. This is one technology which we have seen in China. China does it for all their 765 and above voltage level erection. This is a very sleek modular truss based crane which is based on a simple torque balancing principle of class 11th physics. You have double arm, you lift the load from both the arms together so that the torque gets balanced on both the arms, and at one go you can lift almost 5 kilonewton, almost 5 tons of weight can be lifted uh, with each lift. So that way you can do the complete erection in 2 to 3 days, which normally takes 7 to 8 days. So that's about it. So with a combination of drone, helical, and DAGP, we are very hopeful that we'll hit the target of 200 man days over next 1 day, 1 month, 1 year period. Our initial target is to drop down from 1500 to about 750 over next 6 months, and then from 750 to around 400, 350, 400 in another 3 to 4 months, and then by 12 to 15 months we'll be in a range of around 200 to 250 man days. That's our goal. That's the target set by our honorable MD, and the entire Razonia team, along with the dedicated mechanization team, is working on it.
Okay.
Post construction, I would be talking very briefly that what are the technologies that are used now the unmanned substations and the digital substations, where we are taking out the need of all control cables, and all the signals, all the analog signals will be converted into digital using transducers, and then using optical fibers it will be transmitted to bay control unit, and then and this substation then can be controlled through a remote location which will be controlling 3-4 substations together. That's the future. That's what we are trying to develop, and we will be using robots as well as drones. We are also exploring the idea of a permanent.
Prashant, try to conclude now.
Pardon?
Try to conclude because already we are getting late.
Yeah, we have started our first substation, digital substation is gone into construction. We'll be making our first digital substation. But as far as line petrol is concerned, we need drone. ICE takes the photographs, and then there is a software which uses AI to interpret those pictures and then give you a complete health analysis of your tower and your lines. The next level of this is to place a permanent cameras on the lines and then do it online. Okay, instead of flying drone say once in 6 months, you will be taking photographs online, and online there will be a background, that will be a software which will be running on background, and using AI and ML they will be giving you the health of the line. So that's another aspect which we are working on. The conclusion is that, as I said, the older methods are archaic, but somehow, somewhere, the EPCs are still stuck with it. We are just trying to shake them up. We are just trying to nudge them up. We are trying to work with them. And this is a beautiful forum where all the EPC developer, the regulator, all have come together. The operator all have come together. We all need to understand that if transmission lines have to be ahead of the curve, then the mechanization is the only way, and we have to make a proper regulatory environment, a proper partner environment where each one of us support each other, and just not look for individual profits. That's not gonna work. What is required, that there is a sea change that needs to happen in the way we work. This is the time. We are the torch bearer. We are ready to lead you guys, but we need all your supports. So that's what my closing remarks would be. Happy to take up any question on this.
Thank you, Prasad. Good insight. Will question answer will come after the end of the session. And now we are.
Mr. Jha, only one
Yes.
issue comes to my mind. This 1500 man days, man months per kilometer, and lack of training of the manpower are very serious issues.
Yeah.
So we need to take up what has to be done here regarding this.
Yes, sir. They have telling that one of the issue is the approval process and they smoothen the project. Third is the use of this technology. We'll discuss, sir, after this session. The question answer interaction is there. After that. Now we are inviting Sri Vamsi Rama Mohan.
Sir, if there are no questions for me, can I take off, because I have some other work. I'm in abroad. I have to catch a flight later in the day, so I'll take your leave. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Then just a second.
Yeah.
Sir, he is leaving. Any question from him? If no questions, Mr. Prasad, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
You are a utility. You are getting the work done through EPC. How
Yes,
are
sir.
you coordinating EPC with EPC to use this technology? Whether you are giving some advantage or how to go?
Yeah, so sir, it's very difficult to move the EPC community as of now, and that's why I said that this is a very good forum where we can appeal, and I would like your help as well for that. But for the time being, what we are doing is we are giving these technologies to them free of cost, and just telling them that this is our cost, this is on our cost, but please use it. So the idea is to make them educate, make them realize the benefit of all these initiatives, and once they realize over a period of time, then hopefully they'll deploy it. Say for example, in Rajasthan, we have given drones and the entire associated infrastructure free of cost.
Thank you, Prasad.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I am inviting Sri Vamsi Ram Mohan Pura, Director Project Power Grid. or his presentation on regulatory support for flexibility and risk sharing. Mr. Vamsi.
Yes, sir. Sir, namaskar. Good afternoon, learned audience and also participants and the panelists. I thank for the opportunity given to me to share my views on this August forum over here. I would like to state, sir, that the humble conductor continues to be the only mechanism to evacuate power from point A to point B. So the focus of the transmission lines is even more pronounced as we speak. And I could hear the different panelists also speaking and how critical the evacuation needs are. Sir, I would like to revolve my presentation on two aspects, that is certainty and timely relief for all the aspects which we are looking at. Primarily, we are into the competitive arena now, where all the market forces are expected to act in such a way so that we get the best of the product. While having stated that, the topic itself about the regulatory support, what is required. So it is the other way around, that while we are looking that the market forces act on their own, we expect that there's going to be some regulatory relief or timely relief for implementing these projects. If you start off with the various challenges in implementing the project, so we try to revolve about the certainty and the timely relief of it. So one of the primary part is the route selection in a particular transmission line, sir. While in the bidding documents that the bidders are free, I'm talking pertinent to the competitive regime, while the route is left free to the bidders to choose, there is a constraint that eventually you are supposed to obtain the 164 for that route, which may be given, delayed, or denied. So while the bidding expects that the bidder selects the route, subsequently there is a taboo on it whether you will be able to get that route or no, save for passing through defense and airport areas and all, that has to be definitely adhered to. But the certainty of getting that route is again challenged over there, because there is an approval of 164 which again puts a question mark in the entire route on which the cost has been based and the tariff has been determined. With multiple biddings happening at the same time in the same corridors, the challenge becomes even more pronounced, because two different bidders in two different projects must be selecting the similar corridor rather the same corridor. Then it would be another challenge to work, because the intensity of work which is going on, obviously in the same corridor, there could be two bidders who are vying for it in two different projects. So that issue also has to be flagged and seen how this is going to be adjusted. Sir, and having exclusive corridors in the densely populated areas of Khavda, Badlas, and Bikaner would be a very important solution, because otherwise all the bidders, there is a very haphazard kind of building up of the transmission systems. So we will have to look for dedicated corridors, if possible, a multi-tenancy of the circuits, as one of the panelists also was suggesting. These are the ways how we can try to reduce the impact of the transmission lines being built left, right, and center. We should be having defined routes where it has to be built. Although it may be a little rerouted, the lines may have to be rerouted, but still this would be a very essential requirement, given large swaths of land being unceremoniously being built for different transmission lines in different routes. In the objective of getting the shortest route, it is being crisscrossed without any focused approach in trying to build the things. Sir, apart from that, I look into, so there is a challenge in certainty of the route which has been selected by the bidder in trying to build the transmission lines. We also need to take the support of Gati Shakti to make sure that no two developers are using the same system. So that should be a common platform, where the Gati Shakti platform would be very useful to make sure both the BPCs and the other developers, including the RE developers, should be placing their lands and their routes so that it is not getting overlapped. The other issue, a perennial issue, is the land for a substation. While defined radius are being determined for selecting a particular land, maybe within a 3 kilometer or a 5 kilometer radius, it is becoming even more challenging to identify a substation land of a 765 kV nature, which is by and large 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer kind of a size. It gets even more difficult to find these lands with most of the solar developers already occupying the land. One of the option would be that the bid process coordinator himself, within the first 3 to 4 months where the bidding is happening, he should be able to identify the land, load that onto the acquisition price. There is certainty both for the transmission service developer as well as for the generator, who can actually, the RE generator, who can be sure where the location is coming. The project also takes off fast, less of challenges, and the time is best utilized. I think we start early on that. Right from the time when the bidding is identified, we should be able to undertake this activity. Sir, on the right of way front, with new interventions by the government of India and by the state governments also, with the value also being identified for arriving at the market rate, such changes will have to be considered under change in law, which we see that the ministry also has accordingly made in the provisions. This kind of a certainty and timely relief that yes, this will be considered as under change in law would be providing a great movement forward for the developers, because particularly we see sometimes the cost of right of way at times is multiple times the cost of the transmission system itself, or rather at least twice of it also. So in such challenging conditions, giving certainty to the developer, yes, this will be considered under change in law, and that relief is given timely so that financial closure or bankability of the project is maintained. While the other two issues, that is the equipment and manpower, which are two of the major challenges, which both the RE generation and the transmission both are vying for the similar resources, that is be it the cable, conductor, structures, tower parts, and even the manpower used for it, or the RE generation and the transmission, all of them are vying for the same manpower and the equipment. There is a with this high intensity of requirement of these equipment and the manpower, there is definitely a challenge which is echoed by the other panelists as well in procuring the main substation equipment, including the shortage of manpower. These have to be factored in while working upon the timelines for a transmission project. Ignoring them and trying to loading the transmission system developer to push all the risk in trying to develop the project, I think we have to accept the fact, yes, this cannot be done any further. It will have to be acknowledged, yes, there is a challenge in sourcing of the equipment, there is a challenge in sourcing of the manpower. This has to be factored in, and the best thing is let us start early. Now that we know to build the transmission system, why don't we start that early? Give enough time for the transmission system developer to build the lines. It is no longer, it is no news that yes, a transmission line takes more time and the regeneration takes less time. We have heard enough of it. We need to act. We need to provide enough time for the development of the transmission system, because that is becoming even more challenging over there. The other issue, what I see is the mismatch and the multi-tenancy of many developers in one substation. If I look into the mismatch part of it, with many developers working on different transmission system and with a common point, one of the developer coming on time, the other developer not coming on time, the proposals of trying to load one against the other, rather pit one against the other, appears not that great, because it is impossible for a transmission system developer to fathom as what would be his liability in case the other person doesn't come. So this one should be better, this particular risk be better taken by the indenting authority or the indenting agency who wants the system. This be pooled and it be paid to the developer who has come on time or who has come at the time when he is there, irrespective of power flow, because primarily transmission charges are independent of power flow. They are rupees per time period. It has nothing to do with rupees per megawatt. So the moment the transmission system is standing, there is a need for that to be paid for. So we see that the transmission systems charges have to be assured to the developer once on completion of his charge, and he be penalized in case if there is a delay in the system, rather than pitting one transmission developer against the other. Sir, we see multi-agencies working in the same substation, because with so many extensions coming in, almost in one of the location, I have seen 7 separate PB buildings, separate GIS buildings are being built in one particular substation. So such kind of an activities is only going to be more of a resource waste, or rather optimization of resources not happening, if I may place it. So we need to actually factor in and provide that particular substation developer has properly planned to take care of the future base and all. Having many developers in one location is going to be not only a construction challenge, interface challenge, and also it would become an operational challenge tomorrow. Everybody trying to say it is because of the party A the fault has occurred, or the party B what is occurred. So in a given substation, having many developers is always going to be proving a challenge. And I would also say, sir, that with the new technologies and more need for evacuation of bulk power from point to point, while HVDC is one of the solutions, but with limited OEMs, we need to look things differently, trying to see how we can actually indigenize such technology within India, point number one. The second one is we need to move up the ladder into the 1100 kV systems, where we can indigenously develop them given our past experience, so that we can pack more in a short in a short ROW requirement. So while we pack more power in a given ROW area, we start early, provide that adequate front to the transmission system developer to start ahead of time, and make sure that the risks which are there, both in terms of the land, the route, and the compensation charges which are going to be coming up, the court directions in terms of installing bird diverters or bringing more security related equipment into the substation, all of these things will have to be provided a guideline saying that yes, these are, if such issues are being encountered by the transmission system developer, yes, they would be considered factored in as a change in law, and they would be eventually paid for. That would be providing that much of a bankability to a project, and it would be taking up forward, rather than the expecting the developer to complete the project and then go and then look forward whether his relief is going to be provided or not. So more certainty in such kind of challenges would be paving a way for developing the systems much faster and in full. Thank you so much.
Good. Thank you, Vamsi. You have raised a lot of very good points you have raised. And now the platform is open for question and answer. Any interaction? Anybody else say one thing? Mr. This Mr. Ganesh is there. Mr. Ganesh.
Mr. Ganesh left, I suppose.
Actually,
No,
Verma Sahab has raised the issue why we need or we want, why we are applying 1500 mine days for few kilometers of land.
Yeah.
Sir, he will just be joining. I will just communicate to him. He'll just join in 5 minutes.
No, can our grid official can clarify?
Yeah.
What is the man
Vamsi,
days, man months per kilometer? And are we also short of the trained manpower available for construction? Is it a fact for us?
Yes,
You are
sir.
the largest company, transmission company.
Vamsi?
Sir, the manpower in terms of the skilled gangs for erection is a severe challenge, sir, as we speak, including to the extent of finding welders and civil construction people, that is the tradesmen also, sir. It's a very big challenge nowadays. I think KC also must have echoed the same thing. We have gone to the extent of trying to set up skill development institutes where we are training people and allowing them to go into the market, because we are finding severe shortage of gangs. One of the biggest challenge in building a line now is not resource mobilization in terms of the fund, but in terms of getting the right people, that these fitters who are able to go onto the tower and bring the tower and construct the tower on time. So mechanization is something which we are also looking in, but not at the cost of manpower, so that we can upskill these people so that they can, because the fitters are still required. Even if it is going to be the gin pole or maybe the double gin pole, whatever we are using, the fitters would still be required, but the output is expected to be much faster because we need intense amount of activities to be undertaken.
What is our man months per kilometer?
Man months per kilometer, sir, offhand, there is nothing specifically what we look at, because what happens, sir, it all depends upon the right of way when it is given and how much of time that the gangs are idling out there.
Generally, you must have a number.
Man months per kilometer, sir, if you can.
Actually, sir, KC had given the presentation. KC saying India, they are taking 1100 man month per kilometer.
111 to 1500, and they said Chinese is 1/3.
Not Chinese only. The same company in other part, like in Dubai, etc., they are taking only 50% of the man.
Okay.
They are. Nevertheless, sir,
yeah,
that person has gone away.
Right.
One post is there from Rakesh Naji. Dilip Rojekar, are you there? it has been our policy to develop transmission system advanced as the gestation period for solar and wind project is much lower than the gestation period of transmission system. Where have we failed? Philip? Sir, he is not there, but Rakesh, I have only to say, what I know, that we don't have any such prospective plan like generation used to have earlier. There is no plan for renewable energy at which year, at which place, so much generation will come, so that we can plan that transmission system. Mr. Dilip had it, he is planning the transmission system at place A, generation comes at the place B. The best thing is, all over the world, the planning of generation is done, prioritizing the cooling point. They are saying by the 2 years, so much like Kavada, 80,000 is there. In out of 80,000, how much we want to develop by 2030? How much we want to develop by 2028? How much? Then transmission can be planned phase now. Such type of planning is missing. What Mr. Rojekar, I can gather from Mr. Rojekar's presentation. Sir, now we are coming to the end, sir. And now I request Ravi Sai Sab, President IEF, to kindly deliver his concluding remarks. Sir.
Thank you, Shekhar Jhaji. This has been very absorbing session, in fact. And since we had combined both planning and execution.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, we went into too much of detail, which is required. Because the challenge is that you need to do transmission fast to cope with the fast developing solar, and we have a longer gestation period that we are faced with. So really, on both the sides, we have to gear up. On planning side, we have to gear up in the manner that it is better known what is going to happen where, so that transmission planning is also aligned to that. So one of the suggestions that came during discussion, Mr. Ajay Shankar made, like road and highways and all that. Of course, that is a very good thinking, that do the transmission in advance. But do the transmission in advance would also require a good degree of planning. So for example, today in the area like Jaisalmer or Khavda, when we find that we have generation coming faster, but transmission is a little bit slow, or I think a presentation was made by one of the eminent speakers that something like RE power, something like 50, I didn't believe that out of 100 gigawatt, 50 gigawatt is stranded. That is what he said, if I understood him correctly. I think there is some degree of stranding may be there, but out of 100 gigawatt, 50 gigawatt is stranded. I think that sort of situation, I didn't believe it may be there, but maybe he may be right. But that apart, this issue of gap between generation coming faster and transmission lagging behind will go on cumulatively getting added up. There is no doubt about it. At least now, if we know that 500 gigawatt has to come by 2030 or 31 or 32, we still have a few years, and there should be greater degree of clarity about transmission to evacuate this. A very important point came at the planning stage, that a transmission planning cannot be totally linked to the generation capacity. If we advise or if we ensure that battery energy storage or pump storage or any other, or even your concentrated power or any other such a storage system or hydrogen, whichever is the backup for the solar not being available during evening or night hours, then we will know that if 30,000 megawatt is coming in an area, how much of that 30,000 megawatt would be required for storage, creating a storage capacity, and how much will during daytime will have to be evacuated from there. Now, that degree of planning, I'm sure Central City Authority and others are doing it. I am not aware, but that type of planning in a very precise manner, if it is put in place in advance, then planning of what is to be done on transmission and starting that process can begin much earlier than generation capacity, or at least coinciding with generation capacity. Today we have done 100,000 megawatt, we still have to do 400,000 megawatt, then subsequent batches of 500,000 megawatt. So at least that type of planning process can definitely. In that, I made a point that we should also factor in what is going to happen to the consumption profile when this distributed generation in rural area comes up. So these 2-3 things put together, the planning process and starting of transmission line, they can be integrated in a manner that the degree of challenge or complexity of challenge, if not totally eliminated, can be definitely be reduced. And definitely you don't need to plan equal to the capacity of solar system in an area. You need to plan transmission for a capacity which is lower than the capacity there, because quite a bit of that capacity essentially will go for the storage system. So that and similarly, quite a bit of a capacity in the system will be needed also for the local area in different states, and there we have a different system of generation, transmission, distribution. So I think that's a very important thing, though I do not disagree with Ajay, that if we could put transmission planning, just a minute, transmission system quite ahead of the solar generation, that would be a good thing. I think then this session went in detail, sessions went on in detail on execution side. Execution side is a major story. But just before that, in one of these discussions, similar discussions, I was told that even after tariff-based competitive bidding is done, everything is known who is going to be the developer, and the developer makes preparation in advance. There is a process, I suppose, in the regulatory commission which takes as much as 7, 8, 9 months. So that part between planning and tariff-based competitive bidding and commencement of construction, how best we should minimize that process, because when we are now talking in terms of this challenge, which is really a good challenge, then we should not be luxuriously scheduling our activities, paperwork activities. When tariff-based competitive bidding has been done, and in the generation we had said that regulatory commission will adopt that tariff which comes out of competition, what is there for the regulatory commission to sit if it is true? I am not saying it is true, but this point was raised in one such discussion that it is taking as much as 7, 8, 9 months. So I think, Mr. Jha, you will perhaps find it out, and then we will definitely address a request letter to the regulatory commission that this is a crisis situation, and more bigger crisis likely to come because transmission will be behind. Then came the execution part. In execution part, we are very badly placed in terms of supply. The amount of things that are going to happen and the way our manufacturing sector is geared is awfully out of place. So it is not only the execution agencies that is out of place, it's also the supply chain is out of place. So I think we will have to very well in advance interact with, I think, the government system, the developer system, they must interact with the manufacturing agencies, must interact with the execution agency. I think in transmission, we have lost some of the good agencies which used to be in the past, at least I was aware of, but now everywhere we are finding any amount of lacuna in the execution. And a good session came on mechanizing. I have been raising this point as to why transmission tower to erection to your stringing, everything is being done the way it was being done 50 years ago. What is the sort of mechanization that is happening? Absolutely, there is no mechanization. Absolutely, it was a delight to hear that something is being done. Definitely, we need to interact with the contracting agency, execution agency, manpower skill that was discussed. These are all important things. I would definitely feel that another session by us on execution. Planning we have discussed, we can still discuss with Central City Authority, CTU and others who are dealing with this. But then execution is a major issue. Transmission being done in 4 years' time is a luxurious schedule. It worked well in the past when thermal power is also coming in 4 years, hydropower coming in 6 years. Now when solar coming so fast, and even if you expedite the planning process, this type of luxurious schedule will not do. Whatever is possible to minimize this, and in that skill development, technicians and others, all these things will come. See, what is happening is that when you talk to the people, they try to put the buck on somebody else. Contracting agencies, if they don't have to develop skilled people, who will develop? They need to develop. Similarly, your supplying agency, if they don't have to interact as to as if you take APC contract, supply also everything, then naturally they have to develop. So I think we are trying to pass the buck on somebody else will solve these problems. When the work comes, contracting agencies also have to make money, supplying agency also have to make money. But to make that money, what preparations are needed, everybody is trying to put the responsibility on somebody else. So I think one will have to be candid where the problem belongs and preparation will have to be done. It is doable. It is doable with a storage system, reducing the quantum of supply that will come from there, and with the type of regulatory thing that point that I made, it is possible that manufacturers and equipment supplier and construction agency, they gear up. It is not very difficult, but at the same time, if it is going to be a gap, we will also have to see how in planning we take care of that so that unnecessary stranded capacity does not result in, because we are also going to have a session in maybe a week or two on transmission cost. Transmission cost has also emerged as a subject. Though I do not want to load this with my thought because I am not aware, but some perception is coming up that is transmission becoming too costly. So I think with these, this session has been very good, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful closing comments. I now invite Dr. Subir Sen, convener, TND Group, IEF, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So with this, we have come to the end of this 2.5 hour session on the important and critical issues enabling renewable energy integration, addressing transmission connectivity and execution challenges in India. So at the outset, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to Sri R.V. Saiji, President, India Energy Forum, who, in spite of his busy schedule, has been kind enough to address the audience from utilities, renewable energy developers, EPC agencies, regulators, policy makers, renewable implementing agencies, experts, technology solution providers, and who have attended here and delivered a thought-provoking opening remarks. So I extend our heartfelt thanks to all the eminent speakers, Sri Vamsi Ramamohan Bura, Director Projects Power Grid, Sri Dilip Rozekar, COO CTUIL, Sri Shiva Prasadji, President Solar Projects Renew Power, Sri Nihar Raj, Senior Vice President Adani Energy Solutions Limited, Sri Ganesh Srinivasan, President E&D KEC, and Sri Prashant Sinha, CEO Rezonia, for their gracious presence and sharing views, experience on various challenges as well as mitigating measures related with integration of renewable energy integration in a large scale with a specific reference to the transmission to fulfill the renewable capacity addition target. We are also thankful to our Sri Rakesh Nath ji, Sri V.S. Verma ji, Sri B.N. Verma ji, Sri Ajay Shankar ji, Sri A. Balan ji, Member Power System Planning CEA, Dr. V.K. Garg, Sri Abdesh Kumar Jadhav, Chief of Regulatory CRC Regulatory Commission, and others eminent experts to attend this and participate in this important webinar. We are also thankful to Chairman T&D Sectoral Group India Energy from Sri I.S. Jasa, who has been instrumental in organizing this important webinar and which is also timely. We sincerely appreciate all the participants who have spared their valuable time and took part in the discussion for last 2.5 hours today. Your active participation and interactions have already created an inspiring environment to address various challenges in RE integration related with the planning, execution, technological interventions, and regulatory framework with timely availability of adequate transmission system. I must thank Sri Surendra Rawatji, Secretary General, India Energy Forum, in ensuring the success of today's important webinar. Lastly, but not the least, I would also like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all those who have made this event possible. Let's work together to explore and discuss groundbreaking strategies that will shape the future of our power system, which will be a clean energy transition, energy security, and sustainable too. Thank you for being here and active participation.
Very good.
Thank you.
And we should thank you, Dr. Subir Singh.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Suisa.
Yeah, that is great. Thanks a lot.
Dr. Suisa plus IEF office, Mr. Rawat, sir, we are thankful to him. With that, sir, we formally close today's webinar. Thank you all for your active participation. We look forward to your continued engagement with the India Energy Forum. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.